to the Nikos Gallus Olympic Indoor Hall, host of the LEC Summer Finals. The 7-time champions Fnatic are on match point versus G2, and they look to end their golden road of 2019 right here. Can I just say, my expectations have definitely been subverted. I did not think that Fnatic would be able to get to match point so quickly versus this G2 after last time around, but they have just shown incredible resilience and a lot of new things that we hadn't seen from them last week in this best of 5.
We definitely have, and people say surprise, but they jumped out to a 2-0 lead last time, but all the points indicated that G2 running it back and finding that reverse sweep were going to come out on top here, but I think they've shown a very good job of fighting back against that.
And again, I'm just going to repeat a point we made multiple times earlier. Fnatic having a week to figure out, okay, why did we lose those games? What are the picks we need? Things like the Jax have been so huge now for Bwipo 2 of these games. And we always knew Fnatic could match mechanically. They're also now matching in pick and ban.
Now let's look at what we set as the pre-series win conditions for each of these teams and if we want to change them. Here, originally we said comfort for Hylissang and control mid for Fnatic. How much does that still ring through?
Well, I think we saw a bit of that in game 1, right, with Hylissang playing the Leona, the hard all-in engaged support. But then we saw some of the Morgana, the Shen, which weren't quite that far in that direction. I'd like to switch things up and go harder. Make sure that Hylissang is on an engaged champion in the bottom lane, like the Leona, the Rakan. There are tons of options for him to move on towards, and then go hard in the early game.
And then let's remove the mid part, because playing through mid has not been a big deal for Fnatic in this game. We have the Akali pick just being very safe right now for Nemesis. We want to see, actually, as you highlighted, the engage support and then attack that bot lane, because they're actually getting a lot of advantages, and when they win bot, they stop G2's early game so well.
I think the biggest reason we made the point about putting pressure into the mid lane is because we had such much higher expectations of what Caps could do in these games. And right now, Caps is not being that big factor that we expected of him. The matchup in mid lane is basically being a non-factor in what's going on in these matchups.
Yeah, great point. We'll dive a bit deeper into the mid lane matchup as well in a bit. I do also just want to take a look at some plays from Hilly, just as illustration, because he's one of those factors in those games which can be very divisive, because sometimes it all goes well, sometimes it all goes bad. It's been going tremendously so far.
You're correct, there are inconsistencies. However, when he wins lanes, he gets suddenly an amazing track record of just perma-engaging, and he's not inconsistent anymore. He finds picks left and right, and he's been very hard to deal with now on first Leona and then the Shen.
I think honestly, Hylissang, we see that occasional blunder that he does in games, but if that's the price you have to pay for him to find these exotic picks, these all-ins and these opportunities, then I'm completely fine with that, honestly.
Yeah, and the thing is, the team that gets the early game lead is the team that wins in a series like this. Both of our teams are so good at closing out games, so if you have that strong all-in support in the bottom lane and you get off to a good start, you're going to win.
If we look at the 2v2, sorry to interrupt you, but Hilly's doing really well, but how do we feel about the individual performances of each of the bottom laners on G2?
I think, I don't think Perkz has done very poorly. I think Mikyx actually played okay in the last game. I think it's been kind of rough overall when they do fall behind, but that's also due to picks. So I don't want to, in the last game at least, say that they played poorly. I think that was actually Fnatic's bot lane playing very well.
Yeah, I was actually hugely disappointed with Perkz in a specific 1 or 2 minute window in that last game, because he took a really greedy recall and was forced to use both his ultimate and his flash. Just 60 seconds later, he's walking down that middle lane, goes in basically melee range of a Jax who jumps on him, fumbles his cleanse as well, dies, and that turns into a Baron. So he dropped the ball completely, and that turned into a Fnatic win.
To speak to that point, usually after mid-game, late-game, G2 is very, very sharp. And that's such an uncharacteristic mistake from Perkz. And that begins to put the question in my mind. The confidence always came from the position G2 always thought that they're much better than the enemy team. And all of a sudden, we're looking at these games and they look evenly matched. Where does your confidence come from? It has to come from a different location than just that point that, oh, we're just better than the enemy team, we're going to win anyway.
That is such a good point, and I think we're seeing that unfold in front of our eyes for G2 Esports, because now, again, just like last week, they're up against it. Fnatic has match point, so let's also, for them, look at the pre-series win conditions for G2 Esports and see what we would want them to change, because we had so many for them, but it seems like we're going to have to narrow it down.
Yeah, I mean, so as you highlighted, we had so many different ones. I think, remove globals is still there. Counter pick support will still be strong, but I think if we go into the new win conditions, we're just going to hyper-focus on 2 specific things that's not been working in the 2 losses. And the first one stabilize bot lane YamatoCannon. You talked about this pre-game as well, how important it is for G2 to not lose that bot lane.
So it's crazy, like in the second game we saw, first game, bot lane was crazy. Leona into Pyke, it was a big mess for the G2. Second game, all of a sudden Thresh into Morgana, very simple. But third game, even though stabilized bot is so important, all of a sudden everything on Fnatic is starting to pop up. We see the Jax becoming a menace, and all of a sudden Fnatic is looking more than just a one-trick pony. They're looking like a very diverse team that has many options in these games.
Now the second point we had was let Jankos carry the early game. This is simply looking at the lanes of G2 saying, you don't have to 1v1 win. You don't have to 2v2 win. You can actually wait till Jankos can play around your lane and then make stuff happen together, because Jankos has been the most consistent member on G2 today.
And that's why I loved him in game 2 playing that Jarvan, where he could always be the one on the offensive in the early game and making those plays. In the last game, it definitely wasn't that same story. So now over on red side, I'd love to see them try to get a stronger early game jungler in his hands.
Well, the last matchup I want to talk about is so interesting to me. Jankos and Broxah are doing a lot for their team, but they're also often around that mid lane. And Caps versus Nemesis has been so interesting to follow over these last 2 weeks, because I feel like we have shifted our storytelling around Caps a lot in that we are not mentioning him. And for a player that is supposedly one of the, if not the best player in the world, I have not heard them talked about nearly enough in these vital series for G2 Esports. What do you guys think?
I think he's been unable to win lane against Akali. I think Akali without like hard counterpick like TF is super hard to shut down, which has allowed Nemesis to actually have pretty good impact in the early game, or at least a very safe laning phase. And then I just gotta say, sometimes when Caps get out in these skirmishes, he normally hits every skill shot. It's not actually happening, and it's somewhat the same in the first couple of games last week.
I think the biggest question mark, looking back at the previous games that they played, I remember the one specifically, that was game 3, Akali versus Sylas. Nemesis managed to solo kill Caps. So I don't know if he's holding a grudge in this specific matchup, because he keeps drafting himself into it. He's sacrificing himself maybe because Sylas encourages the situation where the enemy has less options to pick support, maybe the Pyke, etc. But right now I just want them to pick Akali.
But is it, everything is working for Fnatic's side, because even if Nemesis isn't popping off, and by the way, he's not doing bad at all, they have seemed to have found a way to neutralize Caps completely.
Well, I think a huge part of this is on red side, Fnatic have gotten to counterpick every single lane, every single game. We see so many resources going into the top lane for Bwipo, making sure he's on the Jax matchup or the Renekton matchup. Yeah. Bot lane gets to respond as well. Even in the last 2 games, it's been Sylas first pick, then the Akali to answer. So these have been choices Fnatic have been making, and it's putting them in a very good position.
Now Fnatic is on match point, and they have found themselves in this position just last week, and it slipped through their fingers. I want to go down the line and hear from you guys succinctly if Fnatic is going to do it or not, and what we can expect out of the next game.
I'm expecting a lot of counter picks from red side. I think G2 is going to pretty much change up the whole draft, because Fnatic are happy with their comfort. They've exposed their comfort, and let's see if G2 can throw some curveballs, because game 5, I think Fnatic is going to pick red again.
I think G2 will be able to get a better draft here. They're looking at 2 things. They don't want this Jax thing again, even though they can deal with it early. It gets really annoying late. And then they can counterpick support now. So they can make it a lot harder for Fnatic to play through bot. I think G2 will get us to game 5, and then it's anyone's game.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I think they have to trade. G2 has to trade the Rakan ban for a Yuumi, giving Rakan up to Fnatic. Then they can counterpick and shut it down. We're going to 5 games. I still think Fnatic come out on top.
What an amazing finals so far, and hopefully 2 more games to go. But it is do or die for the reigning champions as Fnatic look to secure the title.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. 2 more games according to the analyst desk, guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I mean,
hope
hopefully.
So. Yeah, I
was
love
hoping
the
for
fact.
some more analysis.
Well, I love the fact that we have G2 on red side, and they're talking a lot about the bot lane. I'm looking more at the top lane. I feel like one of the biggest swing factors in this series has been depending on how Bwipo comes out of the laning phase. Every time we see these 2 match up against each other, when Wunder has the favorable matchup, he stomps that lane. But when Bwipo is able to come out unscathed, just look at how much impact he's able to have on the map.
And finally, we're going to see some change up in the draft because we forced people onto different sides. This will be the first time that we see G2 on red side for this series. So I don't think we're going to have the same run backs of bans. So let's mix it up. I agree with Yamato. Throw something completely different. Get us to game 5.
G2 have forever been the innovators. We'll see if they can bring something different in here for this 4th game. Because if they don't, Fnatic are on the cusp of their 8th ever European title. We're into picks and bans, as you said, Fnatic on the blue, G2 elected to go on red side, it was their choice.
Gonna take a gamble and say Fnatic will ban Yasuo and Qiyana. Given that they're on the blue side, when they played up against G2 last week, they often banned the Sylas when they were on the blue side, which means that they can priority pick the Akali, and again, G2 will not have an answer.
But here's the thing, G2 are now kind of strong where they need to pick or to ban to the Yuumi, where normally Fnatic was the team that was banning that. So normally it's Aatrox, Twisted Fate, and Rakan. Now with G2 banning Yuumi and TF, one of those picks is going to fall through the cracks.
And it also means Fnatic open up another ban for themselves. They'll get rid of the Rakan, which now means we're looking at Akali, Sylas, and Aatrox as those 3 power picks.
This to me suggests that Fnatic once again are looking to first pick the Akali, because they're fine with G2 answering with the Sylas, because the Analyst has talked a lot about it. It feels like Caps is not winning this 1v1. They are not shutting him down, which means that there's no reason not to keep putting Nemesis on a champion that he consistently has success.
And that was the call. Do you ban the Akali or do you ban the Aatrox? And it's Bwipo who loses out on his pick, but that means that, like you said, Nemesis gets that matchup that he has just been so comfortable on for all of this series.
Sylas locked in alongside the Akali that we talked about. There's the Gragas. Jankos will be getting his hands on him in the jungle. We expect, of course, Mikyx has shown it to us in support in the past.
Now, typically, Fnatic will answer with something like a Hylissang. They may not have to do it right now. They could instead just lock in something like a Kai'Sa or the Xayah that is available to them, and then guarantee themselves a strong AD carry and save support for the second half of the draft.
Or you could look at grabbing more flex picks, trying to hide what you're going to do. That seems to be Fnatic's strategy whenever they do take the blue side.
High priority on the Shen. Of course, this can be flex between support and top lane. We are very aware of this, and we've got to remember that the Akali can be flexed as well between top and mid, so Fnatic actually taking a G2 approach in this style by keeping a lot of flex picks open and not really showing much to G2.
And it's one of the things that we have to compliment both these teams on their ability to do, and why they are kind of head and shoulders above everyone else in the LEC. It is that versatility in so many of your different members that you can mix and match so many of these matchups, carve up exactly what you want, and I can hear it happens. That's exactly what I wanted from Broxah. I wanted an aggressive jungler and nothing better than his Lee-Sin. A lot of other junglers would take the Olaf into Gragas. Karsa, Broxah is a Lee-Sin type of guy.
He definitely is. Had a great performance on the champion yesterday. We'll see if he can match up versus our summer split MVP, who looks to be on the Gragas this game. Now, Thresh locked in for Mikyx in the bottom lane. Gives you a bit of aggression in the 2v2, where G2 have struggled in some of these games.
You can see now top lane bans coming out from the side of G2. They want to limit the safe options that Fnatic could go for. Last game, they looked to ban away things like the Gangplank, as we're seeing on screen right now. They also considered the Renekton ban. They may even choose to ban away the Jax as well, if they consider it to be blind pickable on the side of Fnatic.
And ultimately, you could have the last pick for Wunder to get that counter pick, or maybe he double ban, or not going to double ban top side because of the Ezreal, and then pick the top laner right there. But it's about, can you put down Bwipo getting out of lane phase? And I think that's what G2 are setting up in their draft phase for you, Vedius.
Now, there is a champion that has snuck through most of the pick and ban phases. It's Xayah alongside Karma as well. Now, we saw Fnatic use it incredibly well yesterday. I wonder if perhaps they could put Rekkles back on it today.
They could consider doing Karma Pipe right now. I think their damage would be a little lacking if they decided to draft like that. So I would expect an AD carry to come out. They could go for the Tristana once again if they wanted to. I think that'd be pretty safe.
I just think
well.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to see the Karma.
But I think this means that it should be hilly on Shen, because I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think you're lacking damage if you decide to put...
There we go.
That makes much more sense. You were lacking damage if you decided to put that Shen up into the top lane and then also pull the Karma.
I'm just saying, I take that as a win. I predicted Karma it came out. Doesn't matter where it's going.
It's a good prediction. Definitely a safe one for Fnatic. Of course, Fnatic continue to show their flexibility, because even though G2 now know that the Shen is going bot lane, you don't know where the Karma's going. It can be flexed to both mid and top, and Bwipo is more than happy to grab that Akali for himself.
I think you can also argue you're not sure the Shen is going bot lane, because it could be Karma support alongside the Tristana with the Shen going top. A lot of flexibility in this Fnatic draft, and G2 are looking for that counter pick. What does Wunder take with his Kled band away that can impact this game from the top lane? It's Irelia, could still be flexed, but expect this to go into the hands of Wunder.
I am excited for the Irelia. I do think that Akali can actually do quite well into the Irelia. So if Bwipo does play it up towards the top side of the map, I think that there is an opportunity for Bwipo to gain an advantage. But for now, it looks like it will be the Shen. My apologies, the Karma, which is a relatively safe lane for the Irelia to just free farm and potentially set up ganks with Yang.
Yeah, I expect it to be Karma into the Irelia just because, like you're saying, it's safe. Bwipo can now absorb a lot of that attention, and even if Jankos does spend his time with Wunder up into the top side, it's really hard to break Karma. She can just shield, walk up, throw a Q, and then dash away. Whereas if I'm looking at Jankos, kind of the other ways that he can attack the map, he can go for very early ganks to try to get caps really springboarded into this game, because we have yet to talk about caps, to see caps really come alive, or he's got the Thresh Xayah into the bot lane that he can plug into.
And I never thought we'd get to Game 4 without talking about the MVP of MSI. Caps, as you say, really hasn't shown up yet. It hasn't been an awful performance from him, but he hasn't been making those game-changing plays that we see from him so often. With Fnatic on the brink of victory here, G2 have to find a way to fight back. It's 2-1, Fnatic looking for their 8th title, and G2 need to find something special if they're going to stop them in their tracks.
This iteration of G2 is yet to lose a best of 5. They have been pushed to the brink multiple times. SKT did it first, Fnatic did it second, and now Fnatic have the ability to take it away from G2, but G2 never falter, they stand their ground. We go into Game 4, G2 all or nothing.
And what a game it is likely to be. G2 versus Fnatic, 2 legendary names in European League of Legends, 2 names that have been around since before I was even casting. These 2 teams have stamped their place in European history, and today could define the next few years of LEC.
And that's the reminder, is that while everyone wants to see a Game 5, it's always exciting. G2 have yet to take down Fnatic in a finals. The last time they met, Fnatic got the last laugh. They are now set at match point. And if we talk about Jankos plugging into the potential bot lane, maybe getting caps going, Broxah is on his signature pick of the Lee Sin. Every time he pulls out this champion, you see incredible performances. So my eyes are on the junglers.
Eyes all on the junglers, but where will they be going? You said Jankos could, we talked about Jankos could maybe look towards the mid lane. Where's Broxah looking early on? Who does he want to get ahead?
Well, I would actually rather have Jankos play up towards the top side of the map, because I feel that with Wunder on the Irelia, he's someone that you want to try and get ahead in the side lane.
Makes sense.
And if you get him in a position of power, it sets you up nicely for these mid-game skirmishes once the training force is completed. Of course, Jankos could look to play around bot lane as well. You do have a lot of setup with the Thresh and the Xayah, but I feel that Jankos actually has a fair number of options. He just has to be careful of the all-in power of a Tristana Shen.
And again, can you break Bwipo on this Karma? Can Bwipo actually play weak side if he doesn't get a lot of attention from Broxah?
We will see. Broxah started on the bottom side of the map, went red into Krugs. His bot lane is pushing in at the moment.
Now, I will say that I think Fnatic's comp is a little more suited for team fighting than it was in the last game, largely because Karma is exceptionally strong at providing that heal and safety for Rekkles. And when you think about, okay, they don't have a lot of crowd control in this composition, one of the strongest things that Karma provides is a shield and to speed up onto a rapid fire cannon Tristana. We saw Splice do this with things like the Caitlyn, where basically you can run up, crit someone, and then immediately a fight is in your favor. So even though they don't have hard crowd control to actually start a fight off, because of the range advantage that they'll have later into the game, it could be difficult for G2 to force fights unless they can find a good hook off the likes of Mikyx.
And if they don't want to team up with Rekkles, you could also throw that speed onto Hilly, and it is Hilly's job as kind of the key member with the ability to start fights, because there's not a lot of hard CC or kind of big engage tools that you need to get the Shen in position if Fnatic do think that they have a fight to pull the trigger.
So look at where Jankos is going. He went blue into red into top side, looking for that first gank on Bwipo, trying to break this Karma early on. Wunder's had the wave pushed in, and it might just be that Jankos is waiting around to try and defend Wunder from any possible gank out of the Fnatic jungle.
You're looking for the CC lock if Wunder can find the stun into a flash body bop by Jankos, but Broxah sniffs it, and Bwipo so far has been playing weak side well. Broxah also covering him, so on this crash, G2 won't be able to get anything from it.
Broxah might be looking to jump in here. It looks like it could be first blood. Wunder caught out. Broxah able to sneak past Jankos.
And a 2v2 kill happened to the bot lane.
gets the 2v2. Mikyx didn't even burn flash.
Fnatic find themselves with a 1k gold lead, only 3.5 minutes into the game. Beautiful sidestep sneak coming in from Broxah to avoid Jankos' vision and set up the play onto top lane as Rekkles and Hylissang punish the bot lane once again.
And we don't get to see, we'll obviously get the replay. I'll hold it though, Nemesis.
Nemesis called out, Jankos has the flash, but here comes the teleport by Fnatic. They want to keep taking these fights. Bwipo coming in just helps out his mid laner survive that gank from Jankos.
But in the top side, and we'll get a look at the bot side, it seems like a misplay from G2's members. The fact that Wunder overextended was then just kind of leashed by the Karma. We now get a look at what happened to Mikyx. He still has his flash.
Ooh, but Fnatic hits level 3 first, and they go for the all-in. We talk about how much all-in power this duo has, and you get to see it right there. Beautifully played from Fnatic as they punish a big mistake from Mikyx.
And last week we saw Mikyx really struggle in the first 3 games versus Fnatic there. That was an unforced error. He shouldn't be in that position. That's a mistake you cannot make at this level of gameplay.
And now G2 trying to answer back. They're looking for a gank in the mid lane. But it just feels like Fnatic are riding so much confidence right now. They're in such a great position, and this gank just seems obvious. Nemesis seems to read it. He had that ward, he spotted out Jankos, and he's not going to fall prey to this.
And it's still always going to be ridiculously hard to force the gank onto Akali, especially when she still has access to her flash.
Definitely is. Nemesis reading the play, able to escape 5 minutes in. It's a 1.5k lead for Fnatic. This series has been defined a lot by early games, and now
they're going to catch Mikyx on the rotation.
He's wise enough to use the Scryer's Bloom, but then Sonic Wave connects with the play. He will knock Broxah away, and Mikyx showing that he is smart enough to avoid that sort of play.
Yeah, very well played with the play right there to make sure that Fnatic couldn't connect with him.
Now we can see Jankos actually pathing towards the bot side of the map. Broxah just hanging around, again, covering for his laners. We've been seeing this a lot from both junglers throughout the series. Whenever a lane is pushed underneath the tower, junglers are there to offer support. He's now pathing mid along with his support in order, again, to provide some support for mid lane. And it's all about making sure that these laners are getting through the early laning phase unscathed.
Seems to be a lot of respect. Everyone's keeping track about where these supports are roaming. It was Mikyx that was almost caught out when he started to rotate back. Wunder again leashed.
But G2 are looking for the fight here. The Vanguard's edge doesn't land. The flash used, as you say. And in the top lane, G2 are ready for the fray. They catch the wave, and Bwipo really has no place to go. He uses the shield. Jankos tanking it up, and he will just body bump across. Caps might fall. One more tower shot would be enough, and he survives. And G2 execute the gank perfectly. But here comes Broxah. Flash away from Wunder. Broxah can't find his mark.
And it looked like frame-perfect dive from G2 right there. Excellent tower juggling of the aggro. Jankos started it up. Everyone gets out unscathed.
Bwipo doing what he can to get out of that situation, but because he burnt that flash earlier on, he wasn't able to do it. Broxah now setting up the wave to help out his top laner, but also Caps could use his teleport back down towards the mid lane. Now we're having a look back at what happened in the bot lane. Oh, they get the flash out from Rekkles as he's playing in the 1 versus 2. A potential play that Jankos could look for later on. But for now, Fnatic still hold the early gold lead.
And when we see G2 succeed, a lot of it, in a lot of games, it's Caps roaming early on, finding ganks like this, being able to get behind towers with Jankos. Here he's got a kill. He's not really having to play the matchup versus Nemesis, just clears the wave and then can look to come into these other lanes.
And that's something that we need to keep our eyes on. How are G2 getting priority in the mid lane to unlock Caps to play the map instead of that matchup? So can he continue to get out into these side lanes, punish some of these missing flashes on the likes of Rekkles and Bwipo?
Oh, I'm so used to having 7 or 8 kills by this portion in the game, but it looks like this is going to be a slower one once again. Broxah starts up the Cloud Drake, not as impactful early on as something like an Ocean, but G2 don't seem to be reacting with the priority in bot lane. Rekkles and Hylissang able to push that wave towards the tower. Nemesis gets the push in mid, and it means it's very safe for Broxah to do this objective.
G2 also where Nemesis is missing in the mid lane. There is the potential for a dive. So a lot of pings are coming out. Jankos is hanging around this lane as well. The thing that Fnatic have to respect is that Wunder has his teleport available, which means that if they were trying to force something on the bot side of the map, he can quickly join.
Jankos stops Broxah going in, but here comes Nemesis, the flash away onto the blast cone. Nemesis might still look for the chase, the perfect execution, and the perfect kill for Nemesis. He's on the board, 1 kill in this game.
Now the bot lane of G2 looking to collapse. The Lantern is thrown.
Broxah on the wrong side of this, still only level 5, does have the flash. Gonna use the Sonic Wave on towards the tower, flashes away, and Caps isn't gonna chase. Nemesis hooked up by Mikyx. Here comes Hylissang though, and Rekkles is gonna jump forward, play it away. Perkz with the Feather Storm will try and pull him back, but Nemesis flashes towards Wunder, who has joined the fight, and that is Wunder getting the kill, and already Rekkles has fallen as well. G2 collapse in their own jungle and find 3 kills.
And what starts off favorably for Fnatic ends in disaster. We talked about how Wunder had the TP advantage, and after Caps was not able to find the execution onto Broxah, they realized, okay, Rekkles and Hylissang are committing to this play, so I can commit as well. Wunder finds the flank, they find the kills, G2 back in this game.
Yeah, but now here's a crash. Wunder doesn't have access to Flash, and Broxah is hanging around. I think that this is a little bit auspicious.
Yeah, just a little bit obvious, you have to think. The flawless duet coming out here from Wunder, but Broxah is on the chase. Bwipo's gonna land the root. Broxah just needs to land the Sonic Wave. Has the Dragon's Rage. Could look for the kick, but they're looking for the tower. Here comes Jankos. He's got the ult, and Broxah tries to kick him away. The barrel doesn't quite connect. Wunder running away from the bottom side of the fight as Bwipo steps forward. The barrel knocks him back, and now Wunder's gonna jump in. The flawless duet stun is on the mark, and G2 find another kill in the top lane.
And it feels like it is Wunder that is pulling G2 back into this game in tandem with Jankos. It was him that made the TP play to help collapse into that jungle, pick up all these kills, and now it's him and Jankos again teaming up and outplaying Fnatic on the top side of the map to pull this gold lead in their favor.
Another Caps roam towards the bot side of the map. Here comes Mikyx with the flash. No flash still on Rekkles.
We said it before, when Caps is unleashed, when he can get out of that mid lane, G2 come alive. He's 2-0-2 with the Proto belt already on this Sylas.
Which is why I want to kind of put focus back onto this bot lane. One of the reasons why winning the 2v2 bot side is so important is that both of these teams really rely on their supports in their jungle to roam into their lane, to get mid lane priority, to unlock them to roam around. And so,
massive fight in the mid lane as Caps misses the abduct, and here comes the Stand United. Caps not in the best of shapes. The perfect execution doesn't hit, but the taunt does, and Caps is shut down. Fnatic say, we can catch you out in that mid lane.
And it's also the fact that Fnatic had the push. You can see that Perkz and Mikyx were locked under their tower. They have the easy numbers advantage because you're dealing with Stand United, but there we go. The pushing bot lane got to mid lane, impacted the mid lane priority, and Nemesis now kills Caps with Hilly in tow.
And if we could swap over to the gold, you can see where these disparities are starting to build up and why that was such an important kill for Fnatic. Caps had a pretty decent advantage over his lane counterpart, but after that kill, they've now equalized. Bot is actually slightly ahead in favor of Perkz, whereas top is slightly ahead in favor of Bwipo because of that Kleptomancy. So Fnatic and G2 staying very even in this early game. Wunder looking for an all-in.
The Vanguard's edge did come out. Bwipo had to flash. Wunder still has a flash of his own, but at the moment, Wunder's so strong.
The pings did come down onto Broxah in the river, so Wunder chooses not to dive. They're not going to go for this. Instead, they might look for a dive onto bot lane.
Rekkles is miles away from this. He's doing the Krugs. The dive shouldn't happen. G2 going to settle for 2 plates. Shouldn't be able to get a third here, although they are chipping away at it. And Rekkles just accepting that he cannot stay around if Jankos is in the vicinity.
And G2 really prioritizing their bot lane here. The fact that Jankos is maybe going to take this blast count, but kind of shadowing over Perkz and Mikyx as opposed to doubling down with Wunder into the top side means that Fnatic did get that Herald.
Look at teleports though. Up for Nemesis, up for Bwipo. If G2 overcommit to the bot lane, Fnatic will have a numbers advantage, and I feel like Fnatic know this as Caps and Nemesis go in the 1v1.
Caps steals away the ult. Mikyx on his way up. The perfect execution stun will land. Oh, just dodged away there with the Twilight Shroud and the knock. But here goes Nemesis straight onto the backline. The Lantern's out. Caps trying to win the 1v1. He does! He takes him out! And now Mikyx's there to help out his mid laner. Bwipo gonna land the root. The damage coming out onto Mikyx, but this is not an AP Karma. This is a tank Karma, so Bwipo does not have the burst. Caps and Mikyx walk away alive.
Caps finally shows up in this series, and it is the most important time for him to do it. He finds the solo kill onto Nemesis. He gets the much-needed outplay, and now G2 sit with their first gold lead in Game 4.
And this is now bleeding over into other lanes. The cast comes out. Looks like they're going to clear away, but it was Wunder who also got a play up into the top side. Herald goes down. Fnatic are trying to make the trade.
Yeah, Caps staying around will have to walk away from this. The Herald comes out. Going to be at least 4 plates, maybe a little bit more. Jankos is on his way to stop this.
And I like the rotation that's made by Fnatic. They actually have Nemesis TP up to top, and they keep Bwipo in mid. This gets them a lot of gold into this mid lane, but now they're looking for a fight.
Mikyx flashes in, the hook lands, the play lands. Jankos coming in from the side as well, and Bwipo is done for. They greeted with the Herald, and G2 struck.
Beautifully done from G2. They extend the kill score to 7, but the gold remains even. With Nemesis up in the top lane, Wunder has to be very careful about how he plays this 1v1. The Gunblade is now completed for Nemesis, and given that Broxah should be forced back, G2 are using this opportunity to secure the Ocean Drake. Very tense, very close in Game 4 so far.
But whereas Akali is feeling very strong because she has a completed item, again, we now finally have a game where it feels like Caps is part of the conversation on this Sylas. 4-1 and 2, it's going to give Jankos a lot more comfort to move into this jungle, and we're going to keep our eyes on what Sylas and what Akali do and how they impact these team fights or impact the map.
G2 with the slight gold lead, as you say, Vedius. It is incredibly tense between these two teams right now.
And I really want us to keep track of how the gold is going for both these teams, because if we have a look, Perkz, even though the early 2v2 did not go in their favor, actually has a 600 gold lead over the lane counterpart because of the early plays that he was able to pick up off the back of Jankos. Mid lane now in favor of Caps once again up against Nemesis, but top still remains relatively even because Bwipo has the Kleptomancy. So G2, even though the early laning phase looked bad initially, they've been able to claw back the gold lead, and now they remain even with Fnatic as we approach the mid game.
Looking to open up some of these towers. No turrets yet to fall. In terms of items, Nemesis has completed his first. Rekkles going for the Infinity Edge first on the Tristana. It's nice spawn going on Bwipo. We talked about him being a tank Karma instead of a full damage Karma here. And across the board on G2, they completed their first item as well.
I think it's really important to have the Iceborne Gauntlet in this type of composition because you can abuse that range advantage that you have with the Tristana and the Karma, especially against the G2 composition. You need something to help stick to them. And I think that's where the utility of Iceborne really comes in.
I also like the adaptation of Wunder. Rather than prioritizing the Trinity Force, he goes for the Ravenous Hydra because this gives him more wave kill, but also lifesteal, so he can make these kind of plays. He can survive through the poke that Bwipo tries to throw down onto him, and he's able to come out on top in these trades.
The thing is that it doesn't matter that Jankos takes 2 tower shots, it's just about forcing Bwipo off the turret. Wunder will secure it, first tower of the game. Fnatic looking towards the bottom side, making a symmetrical play, but it looks like Jankos and Wunder are still pushing in.
Notice, though, that we see Nemesis actually roam down through the bot side, which actually then gives the Sylas priority in mid. This then gives safety for Jankos on the top side to actually drop some vision in the heart of the jungle, and maybe even set up a dive on the Nemesis.
Stolen away the ultimate. Nemesis stunned up, but the Stand United comes out, and maybe they're going to turn on to Jankos here. G2 5 men strong in the mid lane. It's only Broxah, Hylissang, and Nemesis for the moment. Rekkles not there, has the TP, but they're going to defend the tower. Teleport coming in by Rekkles as G2 back away, and Fnatic have been able to defend their mid lane turret.
On a knife's edge, so many skill shots just barely missing, going wide right there. It felt like Fnatic were ready to send Broxah in to look for the fight.
Wunder going in, Rekkles will buffer the jump away.
I love that because everyone TP'd to the mid lane, both side lane farms were lost. The bot lane farm all went into the tower, top lane farm all went into the tower as well. Fnatic were committed to keeping that mid tower alive, and G2 were willing to make the sacrifice. So good stuff from both teams.
I think a key difference here, though, is that G2's mid lane tower is so much more fragile. As soon as Rekkles gets a single shot onto it, it should just blow over. And then now you're looking at a much more open map. It feels like Fnatic should be mid tower if possible, and then use that pressure to rotate into top tower while respecting the dragon timer, which is why G2 are having to respond by having multiple members in mid lane, never leaving this unattended. But this anchor point can be something that Fnatic play around.
And as we get towards, those mid lane towers falling, the map opening up a little bit, I want to talk about how these first 70 minutes will affect the rest of the game. Like, with these people in these positions, with these players as fed as they are, how do we expect the next 10 to 15 minutes to play out?
Well, I think Frost summarized it quite nicely in how she talked about that both teams are going to be looking to secure the last few outer towers. The thing is, Fnatic dropped the ball in terms of their lane assignments as they sent both Rekkles and Hylissang bot, which means that G2 had a numbers advantage mid, and 2 people were bot, and they couldn't stop the minion wave from securing the objective, which means that G2 immediately gain a tower advantage, extend their gold lead even further, and are actually better set up for the Drake that will be spawning in the next mid.
I mean, that just feels like a pretty big oopsie right there from Fnatic, like you said, on the lane assignment. We'll see if G2 are able to capitalize it in the setup for the Cloud Drake. It's not the most important one, but they could use it as a means to draw Fnatic's attention if G2 are feeling themselves for a fight.
At the moment, it's Fnatic who are in the river getting that control. They clear out a control ward. Nemesis is pushing in the bottom lane. That turret already fell by Fnatic earlier on.
Looks like that Wunder may even be working towards a Wit End next, stacking up that magic resistance against the two AP-heavy solo laners that are coming out from Fnatic so that he can always have an advantage in the 1v1. I would love to see Wunder versus Nemesis in a side lane because I think Akali versus Irelia can always be quite an exciting skill matchup, and depending on how it plays out, either one can come out ahead. But for now, both teams setting up around the Drake. You can see Wunder staying in the top lane. He is playing very similar to what Bwipo wanted to do last game, generate pressure, draw members, because Bwipo in the 1v1 can't hold him, especially at this point. So now that they see Broxah top, this should give them easy access to get prio mid, and then set up to secure the Drake.
But it is fine for Fnatic to feel like they can commit more members to deal with Wunder here, because even if you lose priority over the Drake, again, it's a Cloud Drake. It's not the end of the world, which is why you'll see Broxah confident and comfortable to make that type of play if they are trading Wunder's life, Wunder's flash for Cloud.
There was also a brief period of time before the Drake even spawned, so G2 couldn't actually start it, and I think that we saw Perkz wanting to reset. Notice that he's completed the rapid fire now, whereas Rekkles is actually sitting on 1,700 gold, which means that G2 just have more available gold to them, and they're just much stronger right now. So Fnatic should avoid a fight until they can reset.
Well, G2 realize that they're going straight towards the Dragon. Fnatic say, okay, it's only a Cloud. We don't have to fight over this. They will back away, but Wunder torn it up. Hylissang flashing in. Now, Wunder has a flash of his own, but look at how much damage he's already taken.
Wait.
Oh, no, Rekkles jumped away from him! What? And Wunder escapes! A massive misplay from Rekkles!
I can't believe Wunder actually survived that fight. Now Jankos goes in.
Jankos jumps straight in, and Perkz can just open up the Spirit's Refuge, won't save Rekkles for long. He pays for his mistake with his life, and now Wunder's trying to go to Broxah on the top side of it. They kick away with the Dragon's Rage, but G2 see their opportunity to strike. TP coming in by Couts as G2 look for a flank position. Now Broxah can just jump across the wall. Hylissang's here to help him out. Broxah jumps away, but Couts chases him down, and G2 find 2 quick kills.
And the Baron spawns in 5 seconds. No teleport available on Rekkles. Broxah's dead. G2 are gonna convert this kill into a 20-minute Baron.
Nemesis, Bwipo, and Hylissang, this is your time to shine. G2 back away because Nemesis, still alive, could have done immense work in that fight.
And likewise, they don't have priority in the mid lane. You see that Nemesis now wanders over, pushes down that tower, and gives Fnatic a lot of space where they can start to clear out some of G2's control, place all of that vision around the Baron. So we should start to see things slow down a little bit here, but what a series of very unfortunate events.
You can see on the minimap that he does not have priority over mid lane. So this is a bad path taken from Wunder, but then he jumps onto the Shen and onto Tristana, and it's just 2 ships passing on the night as they're able to walk past each other, and Wunder's able to jump away to safety. He almost kills Broxah as well as he lifesteals off the Raptors, and then this results in another pick going in favor of G2.
But this is kind of the nature of G2's playstyle. It demands such a high level of mechanical excellence. The fact that Wunder gets out of that it crazily turns into these picks, that Caps is flashing over walls, and it almost transitions into a Baron. Everything needs to be online for G2 to be successful, and we're finally starting to see these players wake up. I don't know why they can't get up early for series, but in the back half, they tend to be more lively.
Oh, it's just incredible to watch 2 organizations steeped with such history, but 10 players who have just looked incredible throughout the entire split. Both teams have made a huge amount of finals. Now, I just want to say the splits and finals don't count this, do count this split.
Yep.
The titles do not. G2 chasing down that 7 title record that Fnatic holds. Fnatic looking to do one better with 8. Now the fight might begin again as Mikyx misses the death sentence, but Bwipo's knocked back. Wunder kicked away, but Perkz is on a killing spree, and now Rekkles has to flash away. G2 find another pick, and that Baron is very much alive.
I think it's very dangerous to just start the Baron, though. G2 have a lot of squishy members, so their focus should be on securing these tier 2 towers. I don't think Rekkles and Hylissang have the strength to be able to stop this, and notice how they're zoning Broxah and Nemesis away.
I mean, you say they, but Wunder is an absolute monster this game. It's not necessarily reflected in his scoreline, but he is very difficult to work with, despite the fact that it was a reckless misplay that allowed him to escape. He jumps on top of people, pops their health bar, and then zones Fnatic away from that tower.
And again, something that we talked about before we got even into the draft is think about what happens when Wunder's on a carry versus when Bwipo is on a carry. And you can see that when Bwipo has the advantageous matchup, he influences the map so much more. But when Wunder can get that winning matchup, the impact and the difference that his performance showcases is huge for G2.
There was conversation yesterday that Deficio talked on the desk, Yamato also bringing it up, that Karma, while it worked really well for Fnatic against Schalke, it doesn't mean the same thing against a team like G2. I think you need to give Bwipo some teeth to bite back in these matchups. You need to go blow for blow with G2 if you're going to be successful.
G2 currently with a 4,000 gold lead, 23 minutes in. 2 items complete on Caps. He's 5-1-2. We were wondering when he would show up. Well, seems
Look
like
at the bot lane, look at the bot lane.
Much here. The bot lane is the fight. Bwipo and Rekkles trying to catch out Wunder. Wunder doing what he can. The Stand United comes out as well. We have the thing that's immediately G2 looking towards the Baron. Teleport available for Bwipo and Rekkles.
They can't actually do it. Broxah is actually on the right side of the map. He's making sure that he's covering this Baron. A TP comes out.
Oh, he interrupts it! There! He interrupts it, and now Nemesis goes into the Twilight Shroud. But he's got to put something magical out from this if he's going to escape. Perfect execution away, jumps back to the Shroud. But Perkz and Caps are on the chase. Rekkles pushing in the bottom lane. Nemesis will fall, but Rekkles will get a tower out of it.
I do like the decision here from Fnatic. Rather than TP in to try and save Nemesis, just use the time that G2 is spending on killing Nemesis to secure a bot tower.
That TP has to come out now.
You're doing grub. You can't be doing grub right now. You have to go for the Baron. Hylissang and Bwipo trying to catch it out. Broxah is around as well. The hook comes out. Wunder about to come back up, but Hylissang's already been caught. Broxah and Bwipo trying to run away from the bottom side of the fight as G2 have disengaged from the Baron. Hylissang will fall quickly, and Bwipo will follow shortly after G2 fight.
Here comes the TP!
The TP is Rekkles and Broxah run down towards the bottom side of the fight. Wunder on the chase, just needs to take out the jungler, and he can't quite do it. Broxah survives. Jankos doesn't have the ult, but does have the flash. Rekkles trying to push him away, and Fnatic have kept their jungler alive.
And they also eat up so much time for G2. The time that it took them to run across the map means that they can't turn on the Baron, so Fnatic managed to stall it out. Instead, it's just the Infernal for the prize.
We can see that Fnatic had to invest 3 people into the bot lane in order to find that kill. But they had the map set up in a way that it would be very difficult for G2 to just rush the Baron down. Rekkles was in the bot lane with the teleport to join the fray. You also had, even though Hylissang used his ultimate, there was more of enough opportunity for Fnatic to answer. But then the moment Nemesis dies, G2 is starting this to force Fnatic into a situation where they either fight them in the pit where they can then get the TP, or they find a fight beforehand, which is exactly what they find.
Made the split-second decision, hit the hook, had to land it. It was a nice Mad Life moment, but it didn't mean the Baron for G2.
Even with the teleport coming in by Wunder, Broxah just able to survive. Rekkles with a good buster shot, and then Broxah jumping away.
And I like the fact that Jankos held his flash. He did not greed for the kill. He decided, this is going to be way more useful later. Imagine in a team fight, if Rekkles is in my sight, and I can flash, body slam, ulti. That is way more important than finding a kill onto a Hylissang.
Jankos in a perfect flank position. Perkz getting him damage down into Hylissang, but his Rekkles then caught out. He tries to jump away, but Perkz splashes forward, and the Stand United won't save you now. Teleport coming in by Bwipo, but G2's eyes are set well and truly on the Baron.
Ask for it, and you shall receive, Vedius. You
He
said
doesn't even need the flash!
Jankos needs to find Rekkles. He got right into that backline and denied the AD carry.
G2 looking to take us all the way to 5 games. The last time these two teams met in finals, it was a one-way sweep. And Caps is unstoppable. He has shown up. Claps is in the house.
Caps has finally woken up. He's drunk his orange juice, and he is ready to play in the finals. G2 secure the Baron. 15-5 is the kills. G2 have full control. And Medic, as you said, G2 is looking to take us to another Game 5.
7,000 gold ahead. G2 don't even reset. They're looking for these inhibitor towers. Wunder in the top lane. Nemesis trying to find a flank position, maybe catch out Caps or Mikyx, but he is the one who has been caught here. G2 going up towards the top lane, 3 men strong.
G2 have that confidence that Yamato want, but they still need to respect Fnatic. They have the core itemization that they need, so if Fnatic could get a team fight, make space for Rekkles. He does damage.
Oh, great flash there from Mikyx. He doesn't even run the risk. He takes Caps out to safety as 4 members of Fnatic commit into the mid lane. G2 now pushing his 3 men up to top.
Taunt lands onto Caps. He's going to flash away, but Rekkles is on the chase. The lantern comes out, and Caps escapes. G2 break open the base. They take the inhibitor, and Fnatic cannot find their connections. The Sonic Wave still doesn't land. Rekkles trying to get the damage in, but there's no front line for him to be behind.
G2, they're going to walk away, steal away some of the camps. Fnatic don't want to let them get away so easily. They have no flanking wards, and they will not be able to interrupt any of the backs. G2 still have 2 minutes left on the Baron, and now super minions will start to spawn in the top lane. G2 now only have to play through 2 lanes, which is a much easier situation for them. As long as they can keep Bwipo in a side lane, then you know Wunder is always going to have priority.
Wunder finishes up the Trinity Force now. He's going to be incredibly strong. Let's have another look at this fight.
And again, it's how Jankos is able to get into this backline. He sneaks underneath, has his sweeper, finds Rekkles immediately, even though they didn't get the hook.
And what I really want to bring attention to is these double control wards behind. Notice how he was able to flank in from behind the rest of the team, set up that sweeper so that he can jump on top of Rekkles. That was so important to allow G2 to find this fight, Jankos to find that kill, and G2 to secure the Baron.
And now G2, like you asked, Vedius, setting up for that 2 push. So they've got waves crashing in mid lane and bot lane. The outer tower, obviously easier to secure than trying to march it up mid.
1 minute still left on the Baron, but Fnatic, their resources have to be divided between the 2 lanes. We have Wunder in mid, we have super minions pushing in bot. Fnatic have to find a way to hold the line.
Hylissang cooked back. Mikyx has been on point, and Perkz goes godlike. Now in a 4v5, Fnatic have to try and defend. Caps jumping in.
He's
trying to catch out Bwipo. Here goes Jankos, and it's a double for Perkz. G2 are shredding Fnatic. They have to run back to the fountain, and G2 will open up this inhibitor tower and maybe even look for the win.
G2 looks so dominant in game 4. They have been able to cleanly bounce back. Fnatic, they were at match point. They've been in this situation, but G2 every time say that 2-1, this is their power spike. This is their comfort zone. Medic, we are going to game 5.
Perkz chasing Nemesis away. The second Nexus tower will fall, and G2 will take us to game 5.
2015, Fnatic versus Origin. That is constantly what's said to be the best European best of 5. Welcome to the future. 2019 summer, heading into Worlds, looking at a European hosted world, and we got game 5.
That was the last time we got game 5 in a finals, and it feels like serendipity. It feels like symmetry. The 2 best teams in Europe once again fighting to an inch of their lives for that title.
And before this, in chat, Jankos said 1-2 comfort zone.
Yep. And we could even see in the early game, things were falling apart for G2. They ended up dying 2v2 in bot. A sneaky gank comes through from Broxah in the top lane, but it doesn't matter. Perkz is still able to find advantages in the bot lane. He comes out with an 8-0-3 scoreline. Top lane, Wunder performs out of his mind in a very favorable matchup, but the most important thing is that Caps has woken up. The MSI MVP is finally ready to play, and now the big question is, can Fnatic stop the onslaught of a full-powered G2 Esports?
And for me, it was about the trading of the sides of the map. Yeah, Bwipo was put on the back foot, but the advantage that Wunder got over him, like you're saying, was much larger than the advantage that Rekkles and Hilly were trying to get over Cap. So brilliantly played from G2 on the bot side of the map to make sure that they minimize their losses and maximize their wins.
Well, we are going all the way to game 5. We're going to hear more from the analyst desk to break down that game and take us into Silver Scrapes.
Thank you very much, Medic. We will go into Silver Scrapes, but not just yet, because we have to break down how exactly G2 brought us there. We're gonna straight dive into the replays. There was a lot of action, but I would say it was more one-sided this time around than it has been the rest of the series, and it was pretty much all G2, but this is a dicey one.
Yeah, even then, Fnatic did look good coming out of the gates here, and it's them going super deep with Broxah on his Lee Sin to try and get this kill down on towards Jankos, but they overstay inside of enemy territory. Look at the roam up coming from the bottom lane of G2. They are the first ones to respond, and they catch Fnatic horribly far in their jungle.
And they get now with the Thresh, you know, someone who can make a pick on the side of G2, and This is a scary thing when you play against him. You feel like you're doing so many things right, everything is working for you, and then you end up just slightly overextending.
And this replay is so important because it highlights how every game has been. Every single time the team that gets the first initial big play that gives them some kind of a gold lead, they just take it all the way home. It just snowballs. It's the biggest interest rate that you get from any bank.
And who got a bunch of kills there? Caps got a bunch of kills in that one. Who did we call out before the game saying, come on, Caps, like we need to see more here. We need to see from you that you can actually step up. When your team really needs you, you can't always win bot lane. You're not always winning top in this series. Mid lane should be G2 favored. And in this game, finally on the Sylas, it was heavily G2 favored.
Finally, the best mid laner in EU showed up, and showed up so well here. And from this point, it was just pushing further and further and shutting down the side of Fnatic, just completely all over the map. Caps was unstoppable.
I was saying earlier how Caps, he's had to turn it on, he came online, but I think Caps is more of a knob, and he's turning it up to the max.
Did you just call Caps a knob?
He's a really good one.
He was praising you.
I'm not a native English speaker, you know exactly what I'm trying to say.
Moving on. Caps is playing fantastic in this game.
And this is so important now for the last game.
I'm sorry, yes, indeed. A bit funny there, but you're right. That is so important for this last game. The fact that G2 has now found all their gears, but then we've said that before in the series. So how do we predict this next game?
Well, that's kind of thing now, because we know it's hard for G2 to get advantage in all in top and bot lane if they are blue side as we expect. So that's why it's so important that Caps on this potential first pick Sylas that we've seen a few times already can do what he did in this game, because they might actually need him more than ever.
So let's take a look at the key picks we've seen over these 4 games and what we may expect coming into Game 5.
Yeah, so the first one I have my eyes on is actually the Akali here for Nemesis in the mid lane. It's a pick that allows him to actually be unpunishable in the mid lane. Super safe pick, strong teamfight output as well when you counter or when you take into account the scaling options with this champion. And what it's done for a lot of these games is just shut down G2's ability to play through Caps in the mid lane.
I think, though, it's important to note that Nemesis in the later team fights, he has been struggling. Sometimes he jumps in, sometimes he dies, and he's giving G2 a lot of breathing room. I think this is the point where they're giving confidence to Caps. Caps keeps saying, I imagine, give me this matchup, I can do good, and he delivered big time last game.
But they were using the Akali mid to just say, okay, now nothing's going to happen. Caps is not going to get any kills. It's fine if Nemesis doesn't either, because then you have other picks that can snowball into the late game, Jax being one of them. The reason we highlight it here is because twice now we've seen the Kled come in and then the Jax come in as an answer, and while the lane is okay, Jax, once he gets like 1 or 2 kills, becomes a monster, and he also destroys Perkz in these late game teamfights, and Bwipo is playing it so well. So I think Jax is something, now when G2 most likely is on blue side, they need to make sure is not locked in from Fnatic.
We also saw there the Thresh and the Xayah in the bottom lane, and the bottom lane was something we talked about heavily coming into the series. Is it still the most important factor in this last game?
What we saw in the second game was just an ideal G2 draft. They didn't pick the Kled in the first 3 that allowed Fnatic to pick the Jax on third. Instead, they went for Xayah, Thresh, and the response was a Morgana. We saw a stalemate in bottom. Perkz and Mikyx managed to get a CS advantage, and Perkz carried that game. I want to see an exact repeat of that.
And I still think bot lane is the most important lane right now. Thresh is highlighted for multiple reasons. One, we know Mikyx is a fantastic Thresh player. Lanson is amazing in scrappy games with a lot of fights happening. And it's a necessary pick for him, because if the counter pick from Hylissang is Morgana, then that's good for G2, because then Hylissang is not on engaged support.
Andrew?
I don't think we're going to see the Morgana as an answer again. We want to see Hylissang on something that can force the issue. The Leona we've talked about, the Pyke, another option that he can go towards. If he has the ability to punish the mistakes of G2's bot lane, they can go off.
Talking about the bottom lane, finally, Deficio, you wanted to talk about Mikyx in specific in wins and losses for this team.
Yeah, I think it's been so huge for Fnatic to shut him down with good counter picks from Hylissang, and we can see in losses how it's a big difference for him, especially if you look at the amount of deaths he's getting. It's almost doubled in these losses here, and that is something, if you are Fnatic, you look at that bot lane and say, this is the easiest lane for us to win right now. That's what we're picking towards.
And I want to highlight why the Sylas is such genius and Thresh is such genius, because it denies all of these engaged supports. Picking Leon into Thresh, that is a really, really tough one. Braum into Thresh, really, really tough one. Alistar and Pyke into Sylas, really, really tough one. So the big question mark is, are they going to pick Nautilus? Because that's the one. They have to pick Nautilus. Are you hearing me? Big Nautilus, Hylissang.
Now, before we get into your predictions, now that we know the side selection, I just want to take a step back and look at what we've seen from this season. It's red for Fnatic.
Oh.
But wait. I want to take a look at this series as a whole and just how long we've been waiting for a G2 and a Fnatic to show up and both be at their strongest. And this is just making this a fantastic best of 5 because it is very hard to tell who is going to win, and they are really living up to the expectation.
Look, Sjokz, we felt a very similar thing last week, but yet it was different. Fnatic jumped out 2-0, and then G2 just slammed the door on their faces. This is not the same series. This is not G2 coming off a huge momentum streak into the end. It's two teams ready to go out in Game 5.
Has that experience of Fnatic prepared them for this Game 5?
I mean, they're hyped, 100%. They're back on red side. They know it's a huge advantage for them in the draft. They know they can match G2 completely. That's the key thing about this series. No one is just better than the other. That's why it's so fantastic to watch. I'm still going G2 for this one. I think they go back to Game 2 draft on blue side with the early Thresh, you know, of course take Sylas, and then they can win.
Look, I predicted Fnatic to win 3-2 at the start of the day, and now that they're back on red side, I know they can take this home because they have the option for counter picks. In those games earlier in the series, they got counter pick in every single lane. They have the opportunity to do it again and to take it home.
End of the profit, maybe.
Yamato, you're
Well, I was
break the
completely
tie.
off. I was completely off with my prediction. I went 3-0 G2 because I thought Fnatic ran out of fumes. I think this is the point. Their strategy has run out of fumes, and G2 is going to prepare with the proper draft that they did in second game, and I think they're going to take it home because Bwipo, even though he had the Jax, it was the only occasion he had this carry performance into a Kled. That was a counter. When that gets banned, all of a sudden he has the Renekton, which is kind of no room for crocodiles over here, man.
No room for crocodiles. Well, what a day it's been so far. Tonight's final will go down in history as one of the greatest of all time, as G2 and Fnatic have one last chance to secure the title. We'll be right back for Game 5.
Silver scrape.
Let's go.
Broxah might be looking to jump in here. It looks like it could be first blood. Wunder caught out. Broxah able to sneak past Jankos. Perkz with the feather storm will try and pull him back, but Nemesis flashes towards Wunder, who's joined the fight. And that is Wunder getting the kill, and already Rekkles has fallen as well. G2 collapse in their own jungle. They will back away, but Wunder torn it up. Hylissang flashing in. Now Wunder has a flash of his own, but look at how much damage he's already taken. Oh no, Rekkles jumped away from him. Perkz getting damage down into Hylissang, but it's Rekkles they've caught out. He tries to jump away, but Perkz flashes forward. Perkz chasing Nemesis away. The second Nexus tower will fall, and G2 will take us to Game 5.
Hi, I'm Pringles. I'm Chips. Wait, are we doing this Mac versus PC thing? Guess so. Then I am the Mac of the chips.
Cool. Then I'm the PC.
Perfect for gaming. Easy to eat, no greasy hands. Wait, I'm into gaming too.
You mean like into the keyboard crumbled?
No.
Or into the TeamSpeak rustling?
No, I'm into that noob frag LOL thing.
Well then, GG, my friend.
No, we're doing the clap first.
Answering questions in low intro.
Oh, well, thank you very much. How are the children?
It's time for our question of the day. What would be your dream Medivedi intro?
What about fireworks?
But what about a choir?
Zipline?
Or a choir?
What about parachutes?
But a choir!